Hello, am I coming through? Hello?
These are called polys, as you can get away with. So I'm going to go with 32 major and 12 minor. And don't worry that it looks all jagged because we will fix that in a moment. Now, the major and minor, this is really up to you, but I find that something that looks kind of chunky, like a fat donut, just looks really delicious. So I'm going with something around about this size, okay? And once I'm happy with this, once I'm ready to click off, I click off, the options are gone, and this is it. This is the donut that I am now working with. So how do we make this look higher resolution, less jagged? Well, one way is to use smooth shading. So if you right click with your object selected, go to Shade Smooth. And look at that, this is immediately better. Without getting too technical, this is kind of a fakery. It's sort of like the shader is telling the renderer that this is a really high poly dense mesh when it really isn't. It's just basically kind of like averaging out faces, and anyway, it's very technical, but basically means it's not going to add anything to your render time, but it's going to look smoother. And so this is generally what you want for something that is smooth and organic looking like we want. If you were rendering like architectural or like hard surfaces, like later on we're going to put this on a counter, then the object would obviously want to be flat. But in our case, we're just going to use Shade Smooth. But you might notice that looking at this, especially if you go side on, that you've got this sort of jagged shape around here, right? So the silhouette is really breaking that illusion that this is a high poly or a smooth looking donut. But thankfully, rather than adding all of that complex density into the mesh itself and then making it hard to remove later on, there's another way through modifiers. So if we go over here to our properties, right, this very confusing, lots of option looking properties, click on the wrench, and this is the section called modifiers. And this is one of those object dependent things. So if you've got your camera selected, you won't see it. So it's only when you've got actual meshes that you might see this modifier here. So it's much easier to explain if we just add one. So up here, add modifier, and you got a range of options here that can do a whole number of things. The one that we're looking for is underneath generate, and it is called subdivision surface. And it is a really common modifier that you use all the time. In fact, it's so common, it's actually, you can just immediately add it to any object just by hitting Control 1. But don't do that because we've already got it, so there. Now, some of you might have just discovered that your donut has disappeared. If that is the case, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, and then underneath Viewport, where it's got Subdivision at the very bottom, Disable GPU Subdivision. That will then make the subdivision perform on your CPU instead of your GPU, which is maybe non-existent or not performing whenever. But disable that and it should appear. But if it's already working for you, don't disable it. Keep it going because GPU will be faster. So what exactly is this doing? Well, it's a lot easier to explain if we look at the shade flat mode.
Just got back in, started late today.
The smooth shading there.
I saw that you were streaming.
I set this levels viewport.
What do you normally stream?
This is our original mesh. This is before we add the subsurface, essentially. When we increase this, you can see that it is adding resolution to our mesh. And the more I increase this viewport levels here, the finer and finer that detail becomes. So to explain it, because this is such a very, very common modifier, it's kind of important to understand how it's working. You can see that this is these squares here, these are called faces, by the way.
I saw that you were doing some kind of like microbiology stuff. It looked cool. What do you normally do in VR?
Okay? And for each one of these faces here, as I add a level, you can see it's becoming 4 faces, right? And then now if I zoomed in on this one face here, if I do another level, that's now become 4 faces. And then if I zoom in again, it's now become 4 faces. So it's exponentially adding detail. And you might also know that it is smoothing it out as well. Like this jagged edge that we've got here, you can see now becomes smoother. So to quickly visualize that, if I just draw it, like imagine you've got like a 90-degree corner, right? Like this. If you add a subsurf modifier, what it's going to do is it's going to add a point here, right? Because this is the extra detail. It's also going to take that point there and it's going to average it out. It's going to average it out between these points. And it's going to create another one there and another one there.
Looked interesting. I didn't have time to stop in, but
really hard corner
I thought about it for a
second.
I was taking care of some library stuff.
So it's going to take a point and it's also going to change it to make it look smoother, generally speaking. So there we go. So now as I increase this, you can see it's getting smoother and smoother. Now, the reason there are 2 options here, you've got levels viewport and levels render. So reminder, this gray area that we operate in is called our viewport. The render is the pretty version. So as an example, you could see if I just turn it off the viewport, it looks very jagged.
Yeah, check it out tomorrow.
Render, if I increase that to 3,
I don't know how often you stream though.
If I do my render, which you could go up there, and render image, or remember the hotkey F12, you can see that that donut is now smooth, but I go back and you can see it's jagged. So the viewport, you want to generally keep it lightweight, and then the render time, that's where you want to get a really nice looking pretty image. So you want to often have 2 different levels.
For the most part, I haven't done too much designing from the classes that I've taken. The one thing that I did enjoy the most was we made characters, like simplified characters that were like normal geometrical stuff. I made a little computer, like a robot that's made out of like an old 90s PC. So it was like, it had like the CRT monitor head, and I like that one a lot. I should probably find that stuff and put it up on Instagram or something. Nice, thank you.
In our case though, I don't really think we need to go beyond 1, even for our final pretty image, because this with shade smoothing turned on is good enough. And we're going to be adding more to the scene later on, so we don't want to make it too complex. So this is actually pretty good. Okay, so we have a perfect donut, and that's the problem. It's too perfect. You could spend decades trying to develop a machine in the real world that made a donut this perfect, and you never would. This is so mathematically precise that the eye will always see this as looking fake. So that's actually a problem you learn pretty quickly in 3D, that things that are too perfect just look fake. So you have to spend time making things look misshapen and adding variation there like you see in the real world, because your eye expects to see it. So how do we do that? How do we make this donut look a little more lumpy?
There's like a noise modifier that I'm forgetting.
I do that by changing the mesh itself. So this mode that we are in right now, where we can, click on different objects, is called object mode.
I was going to go into edit mode.
In the top left-hand corner, you can see we are in object mode.
Search.
But if I click the drop-down, you can see I get a number of other options here. And these options, again, will change depending on the object you've got selected. If I've got a lamp, my little light there selected, you can see I've only got object mode. My camera, I've only got object mode.
Yeah, it's been long enough. I'm not remembering some of the stuff.
Here. So let's enter into edit mode. Ooh. Right. Now, you can see our mesh, our object has become something weird.
Is my microphone...
Bunch of, little points on it with lines and very technical. Well...
Is my microphone loud enough above the video?
That's because this is actually what the mesh is made up of. These little points here, which you can click on just by selecting,
down just in case,
are called your vertices. The singular term is called vertex. I never say that. I like to just call all of them vertices, regardless of whether it's 1 or 2, just because you always get some comments that go, actually, it's called vertex if it is singular. Anyway, so these are called your vertices, and if you have 2 of them joined by a line, that is called an edge, and if you have 4 of them forming a face, then it's called
I
a
could just
face.
proportionally edit,
So
I
with
guess.
these,
Just
I can
like,
quickly change the shape of my object by using the same hotkeys as before. And if I
but
want to move
there was
this,
like
then I
a
would
noise
simply
modifier.
tap
I think it
G,
just does it
right?
like
And you can
all at
see it's
once.
now attached to my cursor.
I swear, there's something in here that I used one time. Is it like deform? Oh yeah, all that stuff's behind the tutorial window. It's under deform, and I think it's surface deform. No, that's not it. Fail the set value. Doesn't like that. Maybe if I get out of... Yeah, failed the set value. I'm not sure why. So how's your day going, dude? I'll see what he has to say. I'm gonna say something.
And then if I want to confirm it,
I could like proportionally edit it, which like gives me some more like fine control on it. But I do like the randomized like look where I'm not thinking too much about it, because like if I make this site a little bit too high, I'll be like, oh well, I want to fiddle with it for like another 10 minutes. I really wanted to get the TTS working, and it was working for a minute last night, and then it stopped working today. I feel like if this side is high, then maybe this side should be like out a bit. I mean, I remember it being a little bit like the last time that I did this tutorial, I was a very finicky guy about this, and I'm thinking maybe I've calmed down a bit, because I'm not disliking what I'm doing. Welcome all who are currently watching on Twitch. I'm just noticing that the number went up. So if you're in with me, thank you for sticking around. Appreciate you being here. I'm currently trying to like oh yeah, you know, I definitely recommend trying it out. Like especially if you try it out now, it's better, a whole lot better than where it was like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was like very hobby grade, like only some real nerds are using it. Now things have been streamlined enough that like it's definitely more casual friendly. Like if you only have a little bit of time to work with it, you can get relatively good at it with just a few YouTube tutorials. And I think he's gonna like grab these guys. Nope. I'm gonna grab these guys. Not that one. And duplicate. Move it up in Z just a little bit. Oh, no. Oh, you know what? It's gonna be duplicate. Yeah, right click. Separate. Selection. So now it's its own thing. We're gonna call it frosting. And this guy, donut. I'm starting to remember how this goes. Then take this guy, move it up a little bit so it's not clipping so bad. Thank you. Honestly, I'll take it back a few. I'm thinking maybe I want to get the inside a little bit more too. Down into it. Yeah, probably. Maybe even all the way out here. Like it was like relatively well dipped. And then we're gonna Shift D, separate, selection, rename it. That's donut. This is frosting. Ignore the empty. That's for on my YouTube Shorts, because I'm multi-streaming. I have it set up so it's doing a time lapse. So I have another window open that's doing like a 360 orbital cam. And when I'm done with the stream, I'm gonna take it and edit it so that it's like a time lapse I can put up on TikTok and stuff and YouTube Shorts. So we'll take the frosting, move it up a little bit so it's not clipping so bad. We're gonna give it a modifier. Get rid of that. That wasn't really doing what I thought it was. So Adam. So the guy who made Stream Beats, his name is Harris Heller. I think he goes by like Senpai Gaming or something on YouTube. He teamed up with somebody and made a extension for OBS called Adam Multi-Stream. And they have an like Adam vertical canvas too. So like basically, with those two, I have a version of the stream that's in vertical that I'm sending over to YouTube. Hopefully, TikTok at some point if I'm able to get into their creator program. And then one that's going to Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and Trovo. Trovo is like I think it's like a Russian thing, but it was just one of the options, so I was like, oh, might as well make an account. There's like 7 bots in my Trovo chat not talking, but you know, so Atum, A-I-T-U-M, I recommend it. Yeah. Right now we're gonna solidify. Give it a little thickness, just a little bit more, and then I can go over here into proportional editing. Bring it kind of like, that's the hard part. Actually, no, I want to see how he does it, because I feel like I want it to adhere to the surface. I'm gonna go back a few. I'm jumping the gun. This is supposed to be a review. I got excited that I knew something, and I was like, oh, let me do it.
Its movement, I just do a single left click, and there it is. Now, if I go back into object mode, like that, you can see that my mesh has changed, okay? And by the way, the hotkey for jumping in and out of object and edit mode is just tab, okay? So you can see it's just toggling between those two modes because it's so common that you want to just quickly change things that it's just easily accessible by that. Now, this is okay, right? But you can see it's like, it's got like some artifacting. It's like,
that's not the right one.
It's not the greatest lump, right? So how do we make it look a little more natural? Well, I mean, you could, you know,
make it so I look in the direction of the.
And then I move, the next one next to it, right? I'll move that out, and then I'll move this one out a little bit, and then I move this one out. And it's like, okay, well now I've got the thing, but it took me like 5 actions. Ridiculous, right? No one wants to do that. No one's got time for that. Thankfully, there is a tool in Blender just for this, and it's called proportional editing, and you can enable it up there. In your
accidentally hit Control Z in OBS.
Now, if I hit G and I move it out, you will see I get a little ring around my cursor there, and that is now changing the mesh around it. Now, a lot of people in my previous tutorials were like, I don't see what's going on. You have to have something selected first, and then when you hit G, you will see
he does do proportional editing.
That little circle of influence. Okay, now this circle of influence, if I scroll down, sorry, if I scroll up, you can see it's shrinking its circle of influence. And if I scroll down, it is expanding its influence. So it's only going to
That
affect
is one of
what
the
is
cooler
in
things that I
that.
learned in my my 3D class was proportional editing and like snapping. If you're getting into Blender, I recommend snapping basically. If I were to get out of editing that guy, we'll put a cube in the scene. No, why is it also doing the? Oh, it's just proportional editing and snapping. Now, see, bring that up, scale it down. We can take this guy, and we'll make the snap point the bottom face. Face. I believe I want to. Oh, mesh. We're gonna set the origin. Is it under mesh? Transform, snap. No. No. Is it gonna be face? Actually, no. What I want to do is 3. So I have the selection correct. So then I can Shift S, which brings up the menu for like the 3D cursor and stuff like that. I can say cursor to selected, so it's centered on this thing. And then I can, when it's not in edit mode, go to object, set origin to 3D cursor. So now it thinks like whenever I move it, rotate it, it's going to rotate from that point. So now I can turn on snapping. I want to turn it to face project, and align rotation to target. I can take this guy, move it down here, and it will move along the donut. So it like automatically will like if it gets close enough, it decides okay, it wants to be on the donut. I think you can also you can go to grid. I can like Alt R will make it so like you clear out the rotation. But now when I move it, it's gonna move along the grid. It's really cool stuff that sped up my workflow a lot. I'm gonna take the cursor back to world origin just because I like it there.
That ring there, okay? If you are on, if you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can also change the influence by using page up and page down. And if you don't have page up or page down because you're on a Mac keyboard, then what you would have to do is go to key map and then change your page up and page down to something else just so that you could get around that. But guys, you got to get a mouse. Get a mouse with a scroll wheel. I think they're, I don't know, 50 cents or just in the nearest landfill somewhere. Get a mouse because it's going to make your life in 3D a lot easier. Okay, so with this, I can now make quick work of lumpy shapes, okay? So I just drag that out. Okay, I've got a little lumpy shape there. Maybe I go down here and I pull this up just by hitting G, moving it up. Okay, so already this is looking a little more natural, right? Because even if we were making a stylized world for a Pixar movie or something like that, you can't have just a spherical looking donut, sorry, round looking circular donut, because it just, your eye will see it as fake. So very quickly, I'm able to add a little bit of variation to the donut.
Make it like, it's got a flat side.
Just a little bit over here. And you can see that I am just changing my circle of influence depending on what size of a lump I want to make. So I just want to make like a little bit that sticks out. I can make a small circle just by scrolling up like that. And you just want to do that until you get something that looks a little more natural. I might want to make the inner part as well. We just drag that in with a smaller circle.
If you have any questions about 3D, feel free to let me know. I can try to answer them. I'm not an expert by any means, but
like that.
Hopefully going to be a 3D professional here in the near future.
It's still kind of simple. It's not too detailed, but it's got just enough variation in it that it's more interesting to look at. Oh, one more thing, forgot to mention. go back into edit mode with tab. Donuts, when they're sitting in the little vat thing, right, they're only like half submerged, so then they have to be flipped. But it means that the bit that's nearest to the surface is getting less heat. So essentially what I'm saying is the bit that's around the donut, the circumference of it is usually a little bit flatter. So donuts aren't like perfectly round all the way around. They're
That's
usually
true.
a little bit flatter. So what I want to do is I want to select these vertices along here, and then I want to shrink them. Now I could go around one by one like this, which is actually what I used to do.
But you want
It was,
a ring or like edge select. Edge select
pre-YouTube
will
days,
get all
and
those.
there was
Alt
no
click.
tutorials. What I would
Alt
do
left click
this
there.
if I wanted to select this. Silly, because there's a function, a tool for that, and it is edge select. So if you hold down Alt on your keyboard and then do a single left click on not the points, but on the edge, right, this little line here, you can see it's selected all the way around. So it's anything that's connected along that line is
Okay,
now
that's fixed.
selected. So if I want to shrink this, right, what would I do? Well, I mean, yeah, you could like move it around, right? We want to shrink it. We want to change the scale of it. So we would use the hotkey S.
A little more
for
rounded.
scale. So S, and I'm going to scale that in. And I actually don't want proportional editing. So I'm going to turn that off and now scale in and just make it a little bit flatter. And there you go. See, it just feels a little bit more natural, doesn't it? Looks a little bit closer to what a donut looks like. And by the way, don't worry if yours doesn't look exactly like this, like your lump is a little bit off. Like some people get a little bit too precious with the tutorial. Like I gotta match exactly everything I do. Like I'm just working on the fly as well. So just make what you think looks good. Maybe you think this is not misshapen enough and you want to add more, go for it, because it might actually turn out better than what mine is. Now, before we move to the next part, how to save.
It has a
How
pretty
to
big
save.
flat spot.
Blender, very, very easy. You just go save as, and you just get one file. It's called .blend. Very literal file extension. Really pushing the limits of what a file extension can be. That's almost a word, Blender. Anyway, .blend, and that's it. And then next time you open it up, it's exactly like it. It's not like ZBrush where you got like 4 or 5 different ways to save a project or an object or a tool or a... Hate ZBrush. Okay, that's how you save. Now, also, finally, I would say, if you need help, because I know if you're stuck and then you leave a YouTube comment, you might not get a reply. If you want immediate help, I've got a Discord. So I'll put the link below. So there's like a little channel in there where you can just ask for specific donut help. So if you're having issues, feel free to jump into that. And also, guys, don't beat yourself up. Like 3D is definitely has like a steep-ish learning curve. So you're in that steep slope right now, and it's really common. Like a lot of this stuff is very foreign. 3D is very unique. It's very different to a lot of 2D tools. But don't give up. Like it's definitely achievable to learn and self-learn at home. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to pay for a tutor. It's really easy to get help online nowadays. So do make use of that Discord. Post comments as well in the YouTube comments if you want to. But I hope you stay with it. So if you're ready to jump to the next part after you've saved your blend file, go ahead, click here, and I will see you there.
Honestly, I think I might speed it up here in the next one. Free and excuse me. Didn't know that was something
Did you
so
guys know that
vile would
Blender
be on
4.0
screen.
had a change that makes it more realistic by default? Or that there's a new technology that is going to expand the uses for 3D exponentially? Well, you would if you were on my free newsletter called This Week in 3D. It's an email from me once a week with 3 to 5 things that I found interesting that week from the world of 3D. So sometimes I share a new tool that I found, a remarkable tutorial, a new Blender feature.
Honestly, I
a
should probably
news
join
story
that
affects
newsletter.
the industry. So click the link in the description, enter your email address, and then you will stay up to date on the world of 3D. It's always free and it's always written by
If he
me.
just puts
Now,
it on Twitter,
onto the
maybe I... or
Welcome back to the
X.
Donut Show, where
I
we
should
make
probably just
sad
follow him
little
there.
donuts that we cannot eat. This is where we finished up at the end of part 1. We've got our nice looking donut, and now we're going to make that icing, which looks complex but is actually fairly simple. Now, as I mentioned before, if you want to add an object, you go Shift A, right? And then you start with something that resembles what you're trying to create. But we already have something that resembles the exact shape we want to create. It's the donut, because we want the icing around the donut. So let's just reuse this information. So we can do that by duplicating the object. And if you don't know the hotkey for it, you could just go Object, and then you'd find it here where it says Shift
Oh, is he doing this in
D.
Object?
So Shift D. Now, when you hit that, you are in a placement state, essentially. Like it's duplicated, and it's now saying, where do you want to place it? Now, in our case, and actually often, you don't actually want to change its placement. You want to duplicate it exactly where it was. So you can cancel the movement by hitting Escape or right-clicking. Now, when you do that, it looks like it's canceled the duplication, but you can see in your outliner, it has duplicated it. You've got two objects, but it's just in the exact same place, which is what we want. So first things first, we need to name them, or else we could get very confused very easily. So you can name an object by just double-clicking it in the outliner, and then just typing in the object. The other way you can name something, I'll just show you the second way. If you select the Taurus 0.001, that's your icing object. If you're in the 3D view, where your cursor, is over the 3D viewport, if you hit F2, that's another very quick way that you can name something without having to go up to the outliner to find your object. So with our icing object selected, let's go into edit mode by hitting Tab. So we want the icing on the top, which means this bottom half of our mesh here is redundant. Don't need it. So we want to delete it. So if we just dragged over the bottom here, you can see it looks like we've selected the bottom half of our donut, but if you were to move around, you would see, oh, we haven't actually. It's only selected, annoyingly, what is facing the camera. Where there's a mesh, it's not gone through the mesh. A lot of users find this annoying. I agree. Sometimes it seems like that would be the more default one that would make more sense, but anyway, don't want to argue. So if you want to select through a mesh, you can go up to here in your top navigation, toggle X-ray. If you turn that on, it's going to enable you to see through the mesh. And now, when I drag over it, you can see that I have selected all through the mesh as I move around it. By the way, you might find it like when you're in this state, it's kind of hard to select. Like it's easy to kind of accidentally select what is above it, and depending on what you've got at your end, that might have happened already. So another way to easily just look directly on the side of your donut is to just click one of these.
Why is it doing everything in the scene? Shouldn't that
dragging around? Just do a single click on either the green one or the red one, the X or the Y. And now we're in that state. You can see it's flattened it, so it's put you in orthographic mode, which actually you can toggle to at any time, just over there, which just makes it easier to just do a single, all the way through the mesh, select. All right, okay. All right, so we want to delete that. So just hit the delete key. You get an extra option here of what do you want to delete, edges, faces. You want the vertices, that's everything. And now we have, if we go back to object mode, and then let's turn off toggle X-ray as well. And you can see it's working. We got half the donut on top of itself, but as you move around, you can see you get some flickering. Now, this flickering happens, and it's actually a very common, it's actually a good warning sign to you as an artist, because it means you've got faces on top of faces, and the 3D software doesn't know which face it wants to render, right? So it's like sometimes saying it's the front face, no, the back face, the front face, and there's no understanding. Sometimes you can actually spot it in TV shows and like VFX or like low budget stuff. You can see something flickering in the background, and I'm like, ooh, there it is, Z fighting. That's what it's called, Z fighting, or Z fighting if you're not American. So what we want to do is we want to give thickness to our icing. So we can do that with a solidify modifier. So adding another modifier, make sure you've got your icing selected, not your donut. And then here where you've got add modifier, we're going to go generate solidify. Okay.
What I did
now,
technically works, I guess.
It's actually added a thickness to our mesh there, but it's actually done it the wrong way. So it's with the normals. Yeah, what is it? It's trying to put the extra bit inside the donut. So we can change that by just changing the offset here in the solidifier settings. Just drag that all the way to 1. Some of you might have actually found that it was correct before, just depending on which way your normals were. If that's the case, keep it at -1, but everyone else, keep it at 1. We just want to make sure it's actually outside. Okay. I also, let's just increase
Thick
the thickness
frosting is better, in my opinion.
Let's go,
Probably do that.
0.025, that looks pretty good. And great, we've got what looks like a yarmulke on our donut. A perfectly straight edge little hat for our donut. So let's make this look more like icing. So the edge is wavy all the way around. So to do this, this is where we get into the fancy finger magic, because you're typing lots of keys. Anyway, go into edit mode, and we can see straight away that we can't see the mesh, and that's because the solidify modifier is obstructing our view. So these little boxes here, as I mentioned before, like this is to hide it from viewport.
They've fixed that
But if you
in
want to
recent
just hide
updates.
it from your edit mode, which is the state that we are in right now, the box next to it is the one that you uncheck, which means in object mode, when you're tabbed in object mode, you can still see it, but edit mode, it's it's temporarily hidden for you. So if I was to select one of these points here and move it down, you can see that it's working, but it would be, again, a lot of effort to go round and round and do these one by one. So we want to use that old familiar proportional fall off tool again. So proportional editing on, and now as I move it down, let's just lower the slider way down here, and then let's pull this down. Okay, now we'll find issues. If we move to the side here, we can see the first issue we've discovered is that this is separating from our mesh here. And that's not what icing does. When it dribbles down, it follows the shape of the donut all the way down. So what we want to do is snap, undo it a number of times, snap the vertices to our donut underneath it, right? So for that, we need to turn on snapping up here. Okay, now there are a number of ways to snap in Blender.
Which one
the
does
default way
he
is increment,
use?
which just means the like the grid floor there. Like if you were to just like move it
Oh,
around, you
hold
can
up.
see it's just snapping to the grid floor. Not
That's
helpful.
why. That's why it
We
looked
want to
weird.
snap it to the face. And now with face snapping enabled, if we move this down, we can see, let's just look here, that the bottom bit is snapping to the face, but as you might have seen, the top bits, the rest of essentially what is inside of our circle of influence with this proportional editing, that's not being affected. Only the little point that we had selected was affected. So that's not what we want either. Normally that would be enough, but in this particular case, we want to also snap individual elements too. And let's go face project.
Face project was correct.
When we pull this down, you should see that these are also no longer clipping through the donut. But still, we have issues. Why is that? Well, it is actually working correctly. We can see these are not going through the mesh. So why does it look like it is? The reason for that is that there's actually just not enough information here. So if we go side on, you can see, right, like we've got this point here, and then we've got another point down here, and then we've got this long stretch in between, right? So that means that this part of the donut, oh gosh, that goes that goes around like that is just not, there's nothing to snap it to, essentially. So what we need to do to fix this is just add more geometry. So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponentially more faces, because here, where there was, one face before, you can see there's now a lot more, right? 4x, okay, 4x. Okay, so now if we pull down, we should see it is snapping. And if we go into this mode, you can see that it's now conforming to the mesh in a much more snug way, because there's information there for it to use. Now this shading artifact here that we can see, this don't worry about that, we'll fix that in just a moment. But I need to show, because I've shown you like 4 things that we need to enable for this to work. I got to show you one more, because if I pull down and if I scroll up, you'll see something. Okay, if I was to click, we get this horrible problem here. And I've done this tutorial enough, and enough people have hit this issue that I need to call it out specifically, because it seems to be a big point that a lot of people just don't know where to go from. What's happened is if we use what's it called, the circle of influence for our proportional editing, if that is so high, it's actually high enough to reach the mesh on the other side of the donut, and then because we've got snapping, it's now projecting that, snapping it to the front, which is creating this like it's something that's a nightmare to fix. I mean, in fact, it's easier just to start from scratch than to try to fix that. So if we want, sorry, there's a lot of noise. To fix this, we need to hide the part of the mesh that we don't want to be influenced by our proportional tool, right? So to do that, there is an easy way to do it. We can actually do it very precisely. So if with this middle bit of our donut here, if I just hold down Alt and then do a left click, as I mentioned before, that selects the ring, okay? And we could, we could do that all the way up, but actually there's a little, I don't know if it's an Easter egg. It's kind of a cool tool that not many people know about. Control plus. That will enable the select more tool. And if you use Control plus, Control minus goes the other way, you can see that it's expanding out. So Control plus will just like select the next vertice along a chain, roughly speaking. And you can see we can very quickly select all the parts of the mesh that we don't need, right? Very cool. By the way, if Control plus doesn't work for you because you're on a laptop or something else, select more, less. You can also do it here. Anyways, to hide this part of the mesh, it's H. H for hide. So when you're in this state, it looks as though it's been deleted. It's very, sometimes you don't know where part of your mesh is.
Still doing that. I'm not sure why.
Turned on. If parts of your mesh are hidden and you want to bring it back, it's Alt H. So H to hide and then Alt H to bring it back. Or if you can't remember it for whatever reason, you can also find it. Okay, it's underneath mesh. There we go. Mesh. Reveal hidden or hide selected. Okay, so that's the other way. But you can get my keyboard shortcut. It's in the link. It's free. Just use that and then you won't forget a lot of these handy shortcuts. All right, so now finally, after all that, after 4 different ways of problems to explain, we can now take part of this mesh and drag it down, and it will work correctly. Haha.
But it's...
So now we just we get to now finally be an artist and go like, what sort of edge or what sort of icing do I want to make this look like? So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm hitting G to pull it down, and then I'm just single middle click, and then because my cursor is closest to the Z-axis, it's now snapping it to the Z-axis. So that's why I mentioned before that it's really handy. You don't have to think of the letter and type it in. You just go in the general direction you want to go, and then just tap the middle click of the, which is your scroll wheel, right? Middle click. It's such a weird button that you have to call it out. It's the scroll wheel button, because it's like no other application seems to use it besides scrolling. But Blender is like, no, we're going to use it for like 90% of the operations is going to be middle click. But anyways, as you can see, I'm not paying particularly too much attention to it, but I'm just making a wavy looking shape around it. You might also want to make some bits that go the opposite direction, right? And then maybe pull, so you've got like big shapes as well as medium shapes and some small shapes. Big, medium, small. It's the recipe for appealing design. Big, medium, and small details.
Why is it still clipping?
By the way, I should mention, if you're stuck, don't feel bad, because there was certainly
I might need to go back and watch that again. I might need to take that back a bit.
case, we want to also snap individual elements too. And let's go face project. Now, when we pull this down, you should see that these are also no longer clipping through the donut. But still, we have issues. Why is that? Well, it is actually working correctly. We can see these are not going through the mesh. So why does it look like it is? The reason for that is that there's actually just not enough information here. So if we go side on, you can see, right, like we've got this point here, and then we've got another point down here, and then we've got this long stretch in between,
But I
right?
did
So that means
that.
that this part of the
I
donut,
don't
oh gosh, that
understand.
goes that goes around like that is just not. There's nothing to snap it to, essentially. So what we need to do to fix this is just add more geometry. So these little vertices here, we need more of those vertices. So we can do that by actually using the subdivision surface modifier. Because although it is a
I did that.
modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponential and then go apply. Modifier. Because although it is a modifier, you can apply the modifier. And the modifier currently is adding geometry, so let's just apply it. So to apply it, we just click this little drop down here next to the modifier and then go apply. Now, if we, nothing should have changed from this view because the same information is being displayed. But in edit mode, you should now see exponentially more faces. Because here, where there was, one face before, you can see there's now a lot more, right? 4x. Okay, 4x. Okay, so now if we pull down, we should see it is snapping. And if we go into this mode, you can see that it's now conforming to the mesh in a much more snug way because there's information there for it to use. Now this shading artifact here that we can see, this don't worry about that. We'll fix that in just a moment. But I need to show, because I've shown you like 4 things that we need to enable for this to work. I got to show you
Okay, so
one
I
more,
do need an offset
because
there.
if I pull down and if I scroll up, you'll see something. Okay, if I was to click, we get this horrible problem here. And I've done this tutorial on enough, and enough people have hit this issue that I need to call it out specifically because it seems to be a big point that a lot of people
so
just
it was
don't
an
know
offset
where to go
issue.
from. What's happened is if we use a what's it called, the circle of influence for our proportional editing, if that is so high, it's actually high enough to reach the mesh on the other side of the donut, and then because we've got snapping, it's now projecting that, snapping it to the front, which is creating this like something that's a nightmare to fix. In fact, it's easier just to start from scratch than to try to fix that. So if we want, sorry, there's a lot of noise. To fix this, we need to hide the part of the mesh that we don't want to be influenced by our proportional tool, right? So to do that, there is an easy way to do it. We can actually do it very precisely. So if with this middle bit of our donut here, if I just hold down Alt and then do a
figure out how he hid the thickness.
case, we want to also snap. If you were to just like move it around now, as I move it down, let's just lower the slider weight and move it down. You can see that it's working, but it would be, again, a lot of effort to go round and round and do these one by one. So we want to use that old familiar proportional fall off tool again. So proportional editing on. And now, as I move it down, let's just lower the slider way down here, and then let's pull this down. Okay, now we'll find issues. If we move to the side here, we can see the first issue we've discovered.
I forgot. Okay. It's a little weird. It's a little weird on the inside, but the thickness is good enough that it's not causing an issue. No, it was the last edit. Yeah. Now I need to make it just large enough that I can see the edge. There we go. I want it to snap to the face. Causing issues. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. Now, if I, that may be causing more problems than it solves, honestly. It's not terrible. It's not egregious by any means. That was causing issues. Okay, so, no. Okay. I feel like I want to... Is there like a straighten? Like... Hmm. There we go. Hmm. Hi, Caroline. How you doing? Where did my music go? Whoa. Oh, is that Z fighting? Okay, yeah. Yeah, that'll happen. Not bad, not bad. Ooh. Oh, that's true. Yeah, he did say he recommends hiding those inside vertices. Okay, now it's just the outside edge. The double is a little weird. Get your big ones. Little S-curve action to keep it varied. Hmm. Hmm. Let's see what he says.
Is that this is separating from our mesh here. And that's not what icing does. When it dribbles down, it follows the one more. Because if I pull down, fix this, we need to, it's kind of a cool for high. 4 different ways of and problems to explain. We can now take part of this mesh and drag it down and it will work correctly. Haha. So now we get to now finally be an artist and go like, what sort of, edge or what sort of icing do I want to make this look like? So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm hitting G to pull it down, and then I'm just single middle click, and then because my cursor is closest to the Z-axis, it's now snapping it to the Z-axis. So that's why I mentioned before that it's really handy. You don't have to think of the letter and type it in. You just go in the general direction you want to go, and then just tap the middle click of the which is your scroll wheel, right? Middle click. It's such a weird button that you have to call it out. It's the scroll wheel button. Because it's like no other application seems to use it besides scrolling. But Blender is like, no, we're going to use it for like 90% of the operations is going to be middle click. But anyways, as you can see, I'm not paying particularly too much attention to it, but I'm just making a wavy looking shape around it. You might also want to make some bit.
I'm very sad that I got a late start today, because that means I gotta be done here, actually, because it's almost time to close up the library. So I appreciate Baron of Bile. I appreciate you for coming back. I will try to be earlier next time, and I will try to also check out your stream. Caroline, if you're actually watching, thank you for being here. I have to sign out for the night, so I appreciate you all. Thank you very much, and